Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Timothy Lee, and I'm a research analyst at Red Cloud Securities. I'm delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on uranium today, possibly as well as some copper and nickel included in there. We will hear from CanAlaska Uranium CEO Cory Belyk. He will provide an overview and outlook. Then we will take questions. You can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we will get to as many as we can. Before we kick things off, first we need to discuss some fine print. During this CanAlaska webinar, forward-looking statements may be made. I would direct listeners to the company's forward-looking statements disclosure outlined on page 2 of the CanAlaska corporate presentation that can be found on the company's website, CanAlaska.com. For Red Cloud Securities, Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. Please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures pertaining to CanAlaska. So without further ado, Cory, why don't you take it away?
Well, thank you, Tim. That's a great introduction, and I do appreciate the opportunity today to build on the CanAlaska story and really convey some of the exciting news we've had in the last 12 months, but let alone the last number of months here through Q1 and into Q2 with our drilling programs at West McArthur and Moon Lake South in particular. So we've got an incredible story here of discovery continuing from last year and through into this year. And it's a real pleasure to again talk about this today, to sort of give it a little bit more flavor than we're allowed to get out in the news. So I'm excited to share that with investors today and interested parties in CanAlaska's story. And for us, this isn't new. It's about uranium, but we did develop an incredible copper and nickel story as well, in particular nickel in the neighboring province of Manitoba. Again, the focus today is about uranium. And here we go. We're going to talk about carbon-free energy, and we're going to talk about discovery related to that carbon-free energy in uranium deposits. So just to begin here, I won't go through all the details in our disclaimer, but here it is. I will be making some forward-looking statements and some commentary around our results from this past winter. So that's pretty normal for us. And I really want to start this today by sort of getting back to where we left 2022. And we had an incredible 2022 where we made a brand new discovery at our West McArthur project. We're calling it the Pike Zone, where we intersected originally 9 meters of 2.4% uranium, about 100 meters below the unconformity. This includes some grades even up to 25%. So this was last year a brand new discovery at our West McArthur project. This is a joint venture with Cameco. So we entered 2023 with a $10 million approved budget for this project to move it forward. And we successfully expanded that Pike Zone at West McArthur through our winter work in Q1 this year. And we developed new targets, we intersected more high-grade uranium, and we intersected, importantly, the first ever uranium around the Pike Zone at the unconformity. And that was one of the things we wanted to achieve, is test the unconformity, see what it's doing around Pike Zone, and really what this could be in terms of a major discovery. We also were drilling at our Moon Lake South joint venture with our partner Denison, with third ever program there, and we intersected a brand new zone of mineralization. We drilled 1.4% uranium over 8.7 meters above the unconformity. So another brand new discovery within our portfolio with one of our major partners in Denison. So what an incredible Q1 CanAlaska has had. And we're going to talk about more of that today. We remain a well-structured company. Our share price yesterday or 2 days ago, around 34 cents. We have 123 million shares outstanding, 170 million fully diluted. Importantly, we have $11 million in the bank. We're a well-structured company. We're well-funded, and we're well-funded for the program that we have remaining in 2023. So management holds about 3.5% of that outstanding share registry, 7% fully diluted. So we are a well-structured company with couple of incredible discoveries in our portfolio. We are a technical and politically strong team. We are on the technical side. We have 140 years of Athabasca-centric experience. Myself, I've been in the business for 30 years, worked for Rano, Cameco, and now CanAlaska, looking at all sorts of deposits around the world. My new Vice President of Exploration, Nathan Bridge, comes from Cameco. We know each other very well. He joined me a couple of years ago, and it's really him and his team that have gone out and made the discovery at the Pike Zone at West McArthur. So I give them credit. But we've got an incredible wealth of experience here that we can lean on to go out and do what we do in our portfolio to make these discoveries. We're an active explorer and a project generator. We research, we acquire, we deal, and ultimately lead ourselves toward that discovery, which we're here to talk about today. We try and maximize our shareholder gain, but minimize dilution where we can. So we explore the projects that really are responding to our exploration, where we believe we have the best chance to make those big discoveries. But we also project generate. We look for opportunity to go out and pick up land and then do deals to help move these projects forward and de-risk them towards that discovery. So we've got over 300,000 hectares in the Eastern Athabasca mostly. And it is an incredible portfolio that is responding to our recent exploration effort. We are built for success, discovery success. We're at the very early stage of that discovery value curve, the exploration value curve shown here on the left. We anticipate having multiples upon successful discovery on our share price for our shareholders. We partner with big companies like Cameco and Denison, among others, all geared towards helping move these projects toward discovery. So we've got a record of success within our team. We've got the team there and ready to go out and make these discoveries. The business case for uranium really has never been better. There needs to be a lot of investment here. If we want to achieve the goals of 2050, we have to increase clean power production from nuclear. We even have to triple, possibly quadruple is what we're hearing. So it is a big part of the future in terms of clean energy production. And what this really means is you're going to need more uranium. And this is not really fantasy, because beyond what we know about the large build-outs around the world, we're having small modular reactors coming into play now. Now, this is not new technology. This is old technology being deployed in a new way, civilian use. And when these come, and they are coming, for instance, in Saskatoon, a micro reactor, the eVinci is going in. It will produce 5 megawatts of clean energy for the Saskatoon market. The Darlington plant in Ontario, for example, is putting in 300 megawatts of SMR build, these small modular reactors, to provide 300,000 Ontario homes with clean energy. This is all coming by 2028. That's just a few years away. And what this really means is more uranium is required, and we're going to have to go find it. And that's what CanAlaska is geared to do. So in 2023, we came through an incredibly successful winter. We drilled new expanded mineralization at our West McArthur project around the Pike Zone. We tested that unconformity. We drilled at Key Extension, just south of Key Lake. We intersected elevated radioactivity, alteration, large faults, everything you want to see that could host one of these large deposits. And at Moon Lake South, the third drilling program at Denison intersected a new zone of high-grade mineralization. Later in the year, we plan on getting back to West McArthur and also getting on the ground for the first drilling program at the Geikie project with Basin Energy. And that should be starting perhaps in June or July of this year. So we've got a lot of news flow coming for CanAlaska, and we're going to continue to look for deals that are going to help de-risk the remainder of our portfolio. And really, it's about getting drilling in the ground, going toward discovery. Again, we've got a large portfolio centered around the Eastern Athabasca Basin. We've got an incredible set of nickel projects in nearby Thompson Nickel Belt in central Manitoba. It's a large portfolio, and we've got a lot of opportunity for discovery in a couple of the metal spaces connected to clean energy. So CanAlaska's target scenarios go from shallow, mid-depth to deep. Now, deep targets are an advantage to us. We come from Cameco. We're not scared to drill in deep sandstone because we get large halos with these large mineralizing events. And we can use that to vector into where the mineralization is located, like at Pike Zone. And that's exactly what we've been doing for the last number of years, using the depth of sandstone to our advantage to drive into the mineralization. And an example here is at 42 Zone. We've seen this before, but it's a very large mineralizing event. It has all the indications of a tier 1 mineralizing system similar to Cigar McArthur, here shown roughly to scale to Cigar Lake. And Cigar Lake's over 200 million pounds of uranium at very high grades. So we've got a very large mineralizing event happening along our C10 corridor on our West McArthur project. Now, it's part of a larger corridor system, the C10, which is host to 68 million pounds of 8% uranium at Cameco and Orano's Fox Lake deposit, which is along the same fault structures, our 42 Zone mineralization and our Pike Zone mineralization. Nearby is Cameco's mine, here shown on the right. This is the world's richest uranium mine, 700 plus million pounds of uranium just 10, 12 kilometers away from our Pike Zone area. We are in that right space, and this truly is the Eastern Athabasca Basin's newest high-grade uranium discovery. This is what it looks like. Again, we've seen this before, but I just want to highlight that this has all the ingredients of one of these large mineralizing events, these tier 1 systems that we like to see in the basement. 9 meters at 2.4% uranium, open in all directions. This truly is a new discovery. If we put it to scale against Eagle Point, this photo I took when I was chief mine geologist at Eagle Point for 5 years. It's a 4-meter wide view of one of the mineralized vein systems on a drift underground, about 350 meters underground. If we put back together the highest grade portion of our Pike Zone mineralization in our first hole 67, it's 6 meters in length. It's that yellow line. This is a very significantly wide event with high grade mineralization, better than what you might find in some of the best parts of Eagle Point. This is why we're excited. We've now got our structure shown here on left, trending from the Fox Lake deposit through our 42 zone, now down into the new basement mineralization in Pike Zone. This is what we've been looking for in this project, and now we think we know where it is. And the mineralization being 100 meters below that unconformity looks like any one of these deposit scenarios. Could be an Eagle Point, a Millennium, maybe the roots of a McArthur River system. So again, what is happening at the unconformity when we go up there? And that was really the case that we were going after this winter, is to see what was happening at the unconformity, because everything we were seeing in the basement at Pike Zone was telling us we're getting high-grade mineralization in a major structural system. And as we approached the unconformity, some of the grades were getting better. So everything was pointing us up and around the Pike Zone. Now, to put this into context, if we just look at basement mineralized systems, here I take the same photo that we've been looking at for the last couple of slides at Eagle Point, and I just outline the mineralized vein. If we move that to a larger scale, the scale of an Eagle Point or a Millennium or roots of a McArthur system, shown here, the view frame is a little black box on the right, you can see that what happens at small scale mimics what happens at large scale. So the internal complexity of this basement mineralization of Pike Zone, we would anticipate to be highly variable, both high grade, low grade, and zones where you may not get mineralization. But as in context, put together, it forms these major tier 1 mineralizing events. So we need to be mindful of this when we continue to explore Pike Zone, because it won't be all that simple. We need to work out the geology. We need to follow our nose. We need to look for these small, high-grade and pod-like, potentially deep pods of mineralization that would be represented in the roots of a McArthur, even at the unconformity of McArthur. This all occurs. So we've got to be mindful of this when we explore. So taking this all into context, we went out and we started to work at Pike Zone. And this is sort of, you know, we've announced this on the right. That's from our, actually both these slides are from our recent news. And what it's really trying to portray is that we continue to drill mineralization both in the basement, up to grades we anticipate to be 16% based on our radiometrics, but also mineralization at the unconformity. We've got over 160 meters of connected mineralization both in basement and at the unconformity now in the Pike Zone area. And importantly, we've got mineralization occurring at that unconformity, that critical juncture between the younger rocks and the older rocks. Exactly what we wanted to see from this program is that this system has an unconformity representation. And what we can say is that it's completely open in both directions and also within the basement. And this is really important to note because we probably have both basement and unconformity mineralization present in the system. And now the trick is to go out and continue to look for it. Here's an example of mineralization we're seeing at the unconformity. The unconformity here is shown by the pink ribbon. Now, I just want to show this to you because this is the scale of alteration that we're seeing at the unconformity. This is what we need to see in one of these large tier 1 mineralizing events. This is wide, intense alteration, contains that black mineral, that's pyrite, it's bleached, it's white. It should actually be a purple or pink color, so it's completely gone, and there's major faulting in these rocks. And importantly, there's uranium mineralization just above that unconformity. So this is exactly the type of alteration and mineralization we want to see that suggests we're part of a big mineralizing system at that unconformity. This is a great outcome from the winter program. If we look in the basement, importantly, some of our holes in the basement intersecting 100 plus meters of alteration deep down below that unconformity. Again, testament to the large alteration mineralization event that we have going on here at Pike Zone. In this case, you can see that rock is fairly light gray to white. that should be black. It should be a very dark green color. This has been bleached and altered and broken through the faulting process. And this all creates the opportunity for these mineralized fluids to move around in there and deposit. This is a very large mineralizing event at Pike Zone. We're seeing incredible alteration deep into the basement around some of our highest grade mineralization, large structures, everything you need to deposit one of these big unconformity related uranium deposits. We intersected more very high grade uranium in one of our holes down in the basement, and it's leading us again to a high priority area in the basement shown here on the left. Also, those targets, high priority targets sitting at the unconformity. This is a completely open system from a drilling perspective. We continue to hit very high grade mineralization. We estimate what we have on the screen here to be up to 16% based on our radiometric grades from our downhole probes. So this continues to evolve into one of these tier 1 type mineralized systems. Again, over 160 meters of connected mineralization already, 1.5 football fields in length, and already 80 meters down into the basement or more. So this is a major mineralized event. This is why McArthur River continues to be our focus. This is why we continue to be very excited about the upcoming drilling program we're planning for later in the summer and fall to continue to follow up on these results. Moon Lake South joint venture. Now, we've talked about West McArthur. We continue to make discoveries at West McArthur. We had with our partner Denison another brand new high-grade uranium discovery on the Moon Lake South joint venture project. Third ever drilling program on this project. CanAlaska owns 25% of it. That's very near to Denison's Wheeler River project, host to their Phoenix and Griffin mineralized zones or deposits. So this is part of that Eastern Athabasca mineralized corridor, and the Moon Lake South joint venture is delivering results. Now, following up some positive results from our previous program last year, Denison went out and drilled another hole, 1.4% over 8.7 meters. This is the highest grade mineralization we've seen on this project. It's completely open as part of at least a 4-kilometer mineralized corridor now. This is an incredible result, akin to what we drilled at Pike Zone last year at West McArthur, and now we're drilling at Moon Lake South with Denison. So this is an incredible result for CanAlaska and its shareholders and the joint venture with Denison. Again, here's what it looks like. This is perched mineralization. This sandstone should be pink or purple in color in its primary state. It's not. It's bleached. It's bleached out. We've got structure. We've got this high-grade mineralization, 8.7 meters at 1.4%, completely open. This is an incredible new discovery, just a few months old. And we're looking forward to what the future holds here with Denison in terms of following this up. It's just a remarkable result on 2 of our core projects in the Eastern Athabasca Basin for our shareholders. Now, in the Eastern Athabasca, why is this important to be out here? Well, there's 3 mills. And nearby to both these projects at West McArthur and Moon Lake South is Cameco's Key Lake operation. Now, McArthur River is restarting. That's well known. It's going to be finished and out of ore in about 15 years' time. It's going to need feed. It's going to need a source of tier 1 feed. And that's what we might have at Pike Zone. We believe that looks correct. It looks like we need to just do more drilling and trace it out and follow that mineralization. But now we've got Moon Lake South slotting in here. So this is a set of multiple discoveries near the Key Lake mill that all have potential to be the next source of feed for that operation. Further to the northeast, more strategic opportunities within our portfolio. Cameco's Rabbit Lake Mill, well known to be on care and maintenance, waiting for that next source of feed. Around McLean Lake Mill, when phase 1 is done at Cigar Lake, it's going to need feed in about 6 or 7 years. So there's a lot of opportunity with our Eastern Athabasca portfolio to go out and help feed this infrastructure. So we've got a large portfolio. We are a project generator and an explorer. So we've talked a little bit about our success in exploration at West McArthur and Moon Lake South. Again, both open targets, high-grade mineralization in the Eastern Athabasca Basin. We've got a large land position, which is available for joint venture partnerships. And one of those will be our Basin Energy deal. That's a $15 million Australian deal that will see its first drilling on our Geikie project starting probably in about 1 to 2 months' time in the summer, and we're looking forward to getting out there on the ground and working with Basin Energy to move that project forward. So we've got an exciting portfolio that's ever expanding because we're looking for opportunities to go out the state and create value for our shareholders and do deals to get the exploration done. So it's just an incredible set of opportunities in the Eastern Athabasca Basin that really means CanAlaska truly ticks all the boxes. And importantly, as we've talked about, and I've shown you from some of the core photos today, that we are advancing new discoveries, multiple discoveries on several fronts in the Eastern Athabasca Basin, all delivering high-grade mineralization. And we're looking forward to following that up through the summer and fall in 2023. With that, I will just close on saying that we truly are having a great period of success for CanAlaska in the last 12 months, and more importantly, in the last 3 to 4 months at 2 projects. And we are drilling on multiple new discoveries, and we will continue to be drilling on multiple new discoveries in the next 6 to 12 months. So thank you for your attention. I hope you appreciate the update, and I'm able to take some questions.
Great. Thank you, Cory, for a very informative presentation. We'll now start the Q&A portion of the webinar. Just a reminder to everyone on the line that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. We already do have a question or two here. One, even though the fundamental case for new uranium production is strong, do the big uranium companies have an appetite for acquiring new projects for development? And does a lack of such appetite help explain why Cameco will not be participating in the funding of the program at West McArthur?
Well, is there a lack of appetite, or is timing everything? And I think that's the case. You know, all companies, I think, want to de-risk assets before they make an investment decision. You know, part of what we do at the very front end is to de-risk those assets toward discovery. And, you know, on 2 of our projects, we're very successful in the last 6 to 12 months in that front. So Cameco it's well known, you know, they've gone through a period of reducing costs and expenses. Part of that was exploration. I would anticipate with the market evolving that may start to climb, and they may start to fund various projects through the Athabasca Basin. I will say that Cameco is a very active partner at West McArthur. We have several meetings through the year. In fact, in a few weeks' time, we're going to be having our joint venture meeting where we will discuss the technical merits of what we're doing and what we're seeing. And, you know, we all make choices on where to fund in our portfolio. And, you know, Cameco has made the choice not to fund this year. It's their prerogative. But I will say they're actively engaged with us in terms of a joint venture partnership and helping to guide and move the exploration forward at Pike Zone in particular. So, you know, we'll see what they do in the future. As part of the joint venture, they retain rights and they do retain first rights of refusal and other things within that joint venture. So, you know, they do have their toe in the water with us. Absolutely. In fact, more than a toe. They're well in there with us, and it's a good partnership. So, you know, the future will be determined based on their corporate strategies. But for us, we're going out there and making the discovery for our shareholders. And, you know, Cameco's along with us for the ride, whether they're funding or not. We'd absolutely like to have them back in, but we're moving this project forward. We're de-risking it, we're learning, and we're expanding the mineralization. And it's very rare to have mineralization of these grades happening on any project in the Athabasca Basin, and then to provide the continuity of already 160 meters, both basement and unconforming mineralization is an incredible result from the winter program. So we're very excited about where this can go.
Great. Now, is there any requirement for them to participate, or is there a dilution or anything, or is the ownership set?
So it's a fairly standard joint venture. If you don't fund and the program's approved, which it was last fall, then there's a dilutive clause. So as CanAlaska spends solely on the exploration, for instance, in 2023, then we will, through that period of spend, increase our percentage ownership in the project. Now, our last announcement, I think, had us around 80%, 20%. If we see through the exploration to a certain point in 2023, then the dilutive clause will kick in and we will gain interest in the project by year end. So, you know, that is all part of the standard joint venture structure in this case for West McArthur.
Great. One follow-up question on that. With West McArthur, does Cameco have a back-end provision? And if so, what are the terms?
There is no back-end provision, okay, per se. Now they can resume funding. They absolutely can resume funding. And I think importantly, as part of the joint venture, they have a right of first refusal, or ROFR, if you want to call it, for lack of better words. So, we are free to actually market this for sale to other parties. They just retain a right of first refusal on the value that we can create from let's say an auction down the road if we're successful making this a deposit, a resource related discovery. So, they don't have a back end per se, but they do preserve some joint venture rights as long as they own at least 10% of the project.
Okay, great. Now, one question, this might even be better for Cameco themselves, but maybe is Cameco counting on an extension of McArthur River's life of mine to feed the Key Lake mill?
Well, I mean, Cameco should answer that question, but I will give my perspective in that, I think the McArthur River resource or reserve is well defined, and there's limited, if what I would argue is probably no opportunity for expansion of what's already known. So essentially you have what you have. So, if you anticipate that Cameco will produce 19 plus million pounds per year as they did historically out of McArthur River, it's a very linear depletion line from known reserve base down to toward the end, which is roughly 15 to 17 years by estimates, and that comes off their website. It's well known. So I would say there's limited opportunity for exploration upside at McArthur because that was well established over the last couple of decades, in my view. So I would think they'd be very interested in finding the next source of potential tier 1 uranium deposit feed for Key Lake. I mean, that's a large piece of infrastructure, maybe 1.5 billion in value to replace, maybe more now, that they're not going to want to see idle, I believe, as a producer. So the trick for us is to go out and prove that we have a tier 1 asset that can slot into a pipeline of projects that might feed that infrastructure. And that's what we're setting out to do.
Great. And shifting over to Moon Lake, can you give us an update on Denison's plans, and are they active? What's the plans for the coming year?
Well, we've actually finished the planned program for 2023, waiting on assays, of course, to confirm the radiometric grade. But we'll be meeting in a few weeks' time to discuss just that. Are we looking at a scenario where we might do a supplemental? Are we looking at a scenario where we get back drilling it in Q1 under a new budget in 2024? That's yet to be determined or proposed by the operator, who's Denison. We don't operate that project, but we own 25%. So, I'd say in a few weeks' time, we'll have a better understanding of their plans or how they want to advance that. I will say that a discovery like that is fairly rare. So I would anticipate that we'll have a good discussion around how best to advance that as quickly as possible under the joint venture, so that we get to a decision point sooner than later, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay, great. And now shifting a bit, obviously with a couple of uranium projects very active and other, kind of a focus there. What are the plans for the nickel projects?
Well, we've got an incredible set of nickel assets in the Thompson Belt. Today was supposed to be uranium, but I will talk about nickel because it is a substantial portion of our portfolio. We just came through last year's successful completion of the earn-in arrangement with Metal Energy that went out and drilled additional fairly high-grade mineralization at the Manor Bridge project, southern part of the Thompson Belt. We've got a plethora of projects extending through the belt. Really, we're the second largest landholder against Vale in the entire Thompson nickel belt. So we've got an incredible portfolio. So, we're looking at closing the deal on the Mel deposit purchase. That's 82 million pounds of in-ground nickel, 43101 defined nickel at 0.88% grade nickel, which is substantial. It's substantial. And it's right up against our Hunter and Strong projects just north of Thompson, maybe about 20, 25 kilometers north of Thompson. So, what are we going to do with this? Well, I think clearly we're setting ourselves up for a potential move out of CanAlaska into a new entity. It is truly a district scale nickel portfolio, but we want to stay focused in the uranium space. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to look for opportunities to leverage that now resource in the ground and our assets to give value back to our shareholders for their patience in creating this incredible nickel story.
Okay, great. One question that's always popular. How much cash do you have in the treasury? How long will that last with current plans? Oh, sorry, Cory. It might have been on my end.
We cut out briefly.
We did cut out briefly, I think. I guess I'll repeat the question. How much cash do you have in the treasury, and how long will that last with current plans?
We have $11 million in the bank as of this week, so we are well funded, specifically well funded amongst our peers at the moment. So we're in very good shape. Against our plans, well, I mean, we have enough to carry us into 2024. And we can adjust those plans. We're free to adjust the plans to market if we have to. So, we're watching it closely. Obviously, the market is going to dictate some of that rate that we go out and conduct our activities under. But let's be clear, we can make our way into 2024 fairly easily at this point. And we are well funded for everything we want to do in 2023.
And one other kind of general question on the exploration front on the uranium side, what have you learned from your drilling results to date that would help better target future drilling?
Yeah, so what have we learned? Let's use West McArthur because we're in control of that one. What have we learned? We've learned, I think this winter we came through and we learned that we're in a big mineralizing system. One of the things you always worry about with, one or two or three hole successes is what are the limits? What are the limits? What are we really looking at? So part of what we tried to do this winter was go out and try and expand that. Not necessarily infill, but really start to get a gauge on what is the scale of this mineralizing event that we're dealing with at Pike Zone. And I can say that we expanded both the basement mineralization and as I showed, very strong, intense, deep alteration associated with that, which is what you need to see around a tier 1 mineralizing event. So that's a tick box right there. But importantly, we went to the unconformity and we said, okay, what is happening at the unconformity around Pike Zone? And we have to remember, we had 9 tests and 6 of those, more than 60%, all intersected mineralization. And many of those are sitting at the unconformity and it's completely open on strike, completely open in some cases in the width. So we have really gained knowledge. We've taken it from, tens of meters, let's say 50, 60, 70 meters. Now we're talking about 160 meters in strike length and open. It could be much bigger. We could be on the end of something really big, or we could be in between two things that are really big. And that's how these systems work. So I would be very concerned if we went in and drilled, a few holes this winter and we came back with nothing. The system shut itself down. We didn't see that. In fact, the system got bigger. It got more intense in the basement. We saw the intensity of the alteration at the unconformity, which is what you need to see to really start saying, okay, you've moved a lot of water through this system, a lot of water carrying uranium through this system. Now, where is it setting up shop? Where is it stopping? These are chemical systems. So you have to use your chemistry, you have to use your structure, you have to put it all together, the alteration, really go, this is a big event. Where do we move around within this event? We're also doing geophysics. We're doing geophysics actually we just finished it, which is going to highlight alteration in the sandstone just above the unconformity. That's going to help us target within a few hundred meters of Pike Zone or even a few kilometers from Pike Zone. And why do we say a few kilometers? Because McArthur River exists over a 2-kilometer strike length. Multiple small high-grade pods. Between them is essentially nothing. And then you get into that high-grade mineralization. So together they form the McArthur River deposit. These all form the same way. So when we say where are we in the system, it's truly, we're only looking at literally 160 meters of strike length here. We don't know what exists beyond that boundary. And that's going to be what we're going to start to evolve later in the year. This is really exciting because, again, I would be concerned if we came back with not much. We came back with a whole lot. And it looks right. It's intense. And now we're adding another geophysical layer to help us target effectively these depths outward from Pike Zone. It's really exciting for the joint venture. It's really exciting for CanAlaska. And I know the geologists here with their experience are going, this just looks right. And we got to go out and drill it.
Great. I think that's all the questions we have, though I guess one general summary question. Obviously, we've spoken about some of the plans, but what news might we expect from CanAlaska over the coming months?
Well, I touched on it in the presentation. We have a lot of news flow coming. It's going to start probably with some new land staking, which we've been very active in the last month or so, adding new land, specifically south of Key Lake, because we saw opportunity there in the right geology. So stay tuned for some of that information to make its way out. We're going to be closing the Mel nickel deposit deal here within, hopefully days to weeks. So stay tuned for that news as we start to move that into our portfolio officially. And then, we're going to get on the ground, first drilling program with our partner, Basin Energy, at our Geikie project, among others. And that should start to move forward, let's say, in the next 4 to 8 weeks, the first ever drilling program. So there's going to be a lot of news flow coming from that project as we get in there. We start drilling some really high quality targets. Very close to the Accio discovery baseloads and 92 Energy's GMZ zone. So, we're going to be in the right geological space for the first time on this project, drilling really high quality targets. And then moving into the summer, we're going to be back into West McArthur. We're going to have news flow, obviously, out of that, again, around our Pike Zone, trying to expand that again, like we did in the winter. So that's pretty exciting. And then, of course, as we've discussed, Moon Lake South joint venture, we don't know what holds for the rest of 2023, but we'll see in a few weeks' time when we have those conversations and what the joint venture decides they want to do with that really new high-grade mineralization Moon Lake South. So it's going to be a great set of news flow coming through CanAlaska in the next 6 months.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank Cory from CanAlaska for speaking today, and thank you everyone on the line for tuning in. Just a reminder that Red Cloud Securities will be back on Monday afternoon with Broad Ahead Lithium, May 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Have a great rest of your day.